Hi, I wanted to send another video to summarize my thoughts on the discussion board post from last week, as well as talk a little bit about the exam next week and how things are going in the course so far. So last week I asked you to participate in a discussion, in an experiment in which the class was divided up into buyers and sellers. It was a double auction in which you tried to maximize the surplus. So if you were a buyer, you tried to buy at a lowest price as possible, and if you're a seller, you obviously tried to sell at a higher price as possible. And I asked you to discuss some of the advantages and the disadvantages of markets. And what we saw was that markets were very efficient in terms of reaching that equilibrium price and quantity that economic theory would predict. So regardless of if I knew someone else's willingness to pay or their costs, we saw how just competing in a market, offering bids and asks, can pretty quickly get to that equilibrium price point. It took a little longer than I thought, so by the fourth round we got pretty close to that equilibrium price, but markets generally are pretty efficient at getting there. You don't have to know what someone's willing to pay, and that's tremendously important if you're, say, a consumer packaged goods manufacturer. Often you will launch a new product in a small test market, so you can pretty closely figure out what that price should be before you go national. Because obviously if you get the price wrong at a national level, the downsides are much bigger than if you get it wrong at a small test market. So being able to figure out what people are willing to pay is a pretty important task that markets can help figure out. The other advantage is that I don't know the type of person who produced the product, and I don't really care. So all I'm doing is trying to purchase the product from the person who offers the lowest price. And so if someone in the market discriminates, or they have favoritism and they hire somebody who's not the most productive person, then the market is going to punish them, and that they're not going to be successful. So when the market doesn't reveal the type of person who's selling the product, it can actually eliminate a lot of types of behavior that we wouldn't want in the business environment. So I also asked you to discuss disadvantages. Some of the things that markets have as disadvantage is that it's costly. So it did take time to set it up. In addition to running the experiment, there are transaction costs, there are monitoring costs, there are enforcement costs. So we assume that if we engage in a trade, then the trade went through. But there are obviously social infrastructures, institutions in place which enforce these rules. So if I propose to sell something and someone buys it, I can't default on that agreement. And so the costs of making sure that the transactions go through is not trivial. In addition to these transaction costs and monitoring costs, we saw that the market also punished people who maybe didn't pick up the interfaces quickly. So the extent to which you struggle, it could be academically, it could be for other reasons. The market can be sort of a cruel master. It doesn't care how much you study for the test. For example, even in this class, I don't necessarily pay attention to how much time you spent on doing the homework assignments. It just tells me, did you get the assignment right or wrong? And I certainly want to help you, and I'll do what I can, and I answer plenty of people's questions, but the burden is really on the individual to make sure that you understand the material. So markets can be sort of cruel in that way. So those are some of the advantages and disadvantages. I hope you enjoyed the experiment. We'll see if there's not more opportunities to do that later in the course. Next week there will be an exam. It's already posted. In addition to your homework, in addition to the discussion board, you will have to read a case that I wrote a few months ago. I recommend, just because there's some additional work next week, perhaps getting a head start and reading the case this weekend, so that way you're at least familiar with the case, and so when we talk about the concepts next week, you'll be that far ahead when you have to actually complete the assignment. So next week there will be a discussion board assignment, there will be a Connect homework assignment, and there will also be the exam. And that exam is worth 30 points. And I ask you, I think there's 5 questions to answer. When you submit your answers, the rubric that I'm going to be grading you on is very similar to the discussion board assignments. So if the answers are too short and you don't adequately address it, then I'll take points off. If you don't understand the concept, then there are points going to be taken off. If there's improper grammar and spelling, points will be taken off. So the same rubric is applied for the exam that it was for the discussion board. But other than that, the class seems to be moving pretty well. So if there are any questions or you want to talk things through with me, please shoot me an email, give me a phone call. Happy to discuss. Otherwise, I wish you guys a happy Halloween, and I will see you all next week. Bye.